Their destination was uncertain, but Ikenna's instincts told him that the journey itself would reveal what needed to be found. His companions, Obinna, a fierce warrior with unmatched strength, Amara, a healer skilled in both medicine and spiritual arts, and Chike, a tracker who could read the land like a book, were each chosen not just for their abilities, but because they shared Ikenna's sense of duty and purpose. For weeks, they trekked through lands they had never seen before, following whispers and clues gathered from villages along the way. Tales of strange occurrences, mysterious disappearances, and sightings of golden artifacts reached their ears, each story pointing to the possibility that more cursed objects like the Golden Mirror were active. One night, as they camped near a river, Chike, who had been scouting ahead, returned with an urgent look on his face. "I've found something," he said, breathless. "An old temple hidden in the hills, about a day's walk from here. The villagers nearby say it was abandoned centuries ago, but strange lights have been seen there at night." Ikenna exchanged a glance with Obinna and Amara. "Sounds like exactly the kind of place we're looking for." The next morning, they set off at dawn, making their way toward the hills. The terrain grew more rugged, and the air seemed to change as they climbed, the once fresh breeze turning heavy with the weight of something unseen. When they finally reached the top of the hill, the temple came into view. It was ancient, its stone walls weathered and covered in vines, yet there was a strange energy about it, as if it was waiting for them. They approached cautiously, weapons drawn. As they neared the entrance, Amara stopped suddenly, her eyes narrowing. "Do you feel that?" she whispered. Ikenna nodded. The air around the temple hummed with a low, pulsing vibration, almost like a heartbeat. It was the same kind of energy he had felt in the cave with the golden mirror, but this time it was stronger, darker. They entered the temple, the stone halls echoing with their footsteps. The walls were lined with carvings depicting ancient battles and symbols they didn't understand. At the heart of the temple, they found a large chamber, its floor covered in strange markings. In the center stood a pedestal, and on it rested an artifact unlike anything they had ever seen, a golden orb, glowing faintly, its surface etched with the same symbols that covered the temple walls. "It's another one of the artifacts," Ikenna whispered, his voice tense. Amara stepped forward cautiously, her hands raised, sensing the energy of the object. "This one, it's powerful, but it's not like the mirror. It doesn't show the future. It feels more like it controls something." Before they could investigate further, a loud rumbling sound echoed through the chamber. The ground beneath them trembled, and the symbols on the walls began to glow, just like the orb. Suddenly, the entrance to the chamber slammed shut, trapping them inside. Obinna drew his sword, his muscles tensing. "We're not alone." From the shadows, a figure emerged, a tall, hooded man with glowing eyes. His voice was cold and commanding. "You shouldn't have come here," the figure said, his eyes locked on Ikenna. "The artifacts belong to the old gods, and those who seek them only bring ruin upon themselves." Ikenna stepped forward, undeterred. "I'm not here to take the artifact. I'm here to stop its power from falling into the wrong hands." The figure laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the chamber. "You think you can stop this? You destroyed one mirror and think you've undone centuries of power? Fool. The artifacts are bound together. When one is awakened, the others stir. And now, because of you, their influence is spreading." Ikenna's heart sank. He had suspected that breaking the mirror might have had unintended consequences, but now he realized the full extent of what he had done. The destruction of the golden mirror had triggered a chain reaction, and the other artifacts were waking up. "You've unleashed forces you cannot comprehend," the figure continued, stepping closer. "But perhaps you can still serve a purpose. You could wield the power of the artifacts, bend them to your will. Together, we could remake this world." Ikenna's jaw tightened. "I'm not interested in power. I'm here to protect the people from it." The figure's eyes narrowed. "Then you will die like the others who have tried and failed." With a flick of his hand, the figure sent a wave of energy crashing toward Ikenna and his companions. Obinna raised his sword and charged, but the energy knocked him back, slamming him into the wall. Amara tried to counter the magic with her own, but the force was too strong. Chike, quick on his feet, dodged the blasts, but even he struggled to close the distance. Ikenna, however, remained focused. He knew that brute strength alone wouldn't win this fight. He had to outthink his opponent. His eyes darted to the orb on the pedestal. If the figure was drawing power from it, then destroying the orb might break his hold. "I need to get to the orb," Ikenna shouted to his companions. Amara nodded, her face determined. "We'll cover you." As Obinna and Chike engaged the figure, distracting him with a flurry of attacks, Amara summoned a protective barrier around Ikenna. With a deep breath, Ikenna sprinted toward the pedestal. The closer he got to the orb, the stronger the energy pulsing from it became. His skin tingled, and the air around him seemed to warp, but he pushed through, his mind set on one goal. Just as Ikenna reached the orb, the figure realized what he was doing and sent a blast of dark energy toward him. At the last second, Ikenna grabbed the orb and, using all his strength, slammed it to the ground. The orb shattered, and with it, the energy in the room exploded outward, sending both Ikenna and the figure flying back. When the dust settled, the chamber was silent. The glowing symbols on the walls faded, and the oppressive energy that had filled the temple was gone. Ikenna stood shakily, his companions gathering around him. The hooded figure lay crumpled on the ground, his power broken. "You don't understand what you've done," the figure gasped, his voice weak. "The artifacts, they're linked. Destroying one only strengthens the others." Ikenna stared down at the man, a cold realization sinking in. The figure was right. By destroying the orb, they hadn't stopped the problem. They had only made it worse. The path ahead was clearer now. The artifacts had to be found, not just destroyed but contained, understood, and neutralized. The battle was far from over. Ikenna looked at his companions, their faces tired but resolute. "We keep going," he said firmly. "There are more artifacts out there, and we can't let them fall into the wrong hands. We end this." With renewed determination, they left the temple behind, their journey far from finished, but with the knowledge that they were the only ones who could stand between the world and the ancient forces that sought to control it. And so, the legend of Ikenna grew, a story of a man who faced the ancient powers of the world not with the desire for power, but with the courage to protect it.